Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the last edition of the Fantasy Slant before the regular season kicks off, mercifully. I'm your usual host, Michael Moore, along with our usual co-host, B-Money Lee and Mike Tagliere. I told you I was going to say it. You just need to change your Twitter handle or something now. No,
I know some of my followers are calling me B with the cash sign, and I'm flattered. I like it.
That's a cool name. Like, you should own it. Seriously, I love that. I'm not cool enough for anything like that. But anyway, last edition before the regular season kicks off, we will take your Twitter questions on start or sit. We have several good ones that we will get to, followed by some daily fantasy plays, whether they're value picks or maybe they're overhyped, etc. We will get to all that in a second. But first, the icebreaker question, as I usually do. This week, I'm inspired by what I did to my wife last week. Which I'll get into.
I don't want you to be that inspired, but thank you.
No. I have to get this. I have to get this out there. So we live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, home of the Texas Rangers, who are doing quite well. And it's my wife's favorite team. And we went last week, and they played the Mariners at home. Good game. Cole Hamels pitched. He wasn't great. It was fine. And it's like 10:30. And we're entering the ninth inning, and the Rangers are down by 1. And I'm like, I go to my wife. I'm like, look, I'm tired. I have work tomorrow. Because I'm a real, old man when it comes to that. I'm a real curmudgeon. So I'm like, look, they're losing. Can we go? I want to go. And she's like, okay. So we leave, right? We're walking out the parking lot. And so the Rangers celebrate home runs by fireworks every time. So we're walking out the parking lot, and there's fireworks that go off. And we both stop and look at each other. And she goes, what was that? And I go, I think they hit a home run. And I looked at my phone, and they had a man on, and it was a 2-run home run, which meant it was a walk-off, and they won the game.
Yep.
Leaving early. I didn't believe me. It was a silent ride home the entire time.
Yeah, you don't get forgiven for that.
It's been a week. It's all good now. Anyway, my question to you two, what is some event, sporting or otherwise, that you left too early? B-Money, you're first. Oh, Mike, no, you go. You go.
Okay, so Brendan, think about this one because I have the story. I almost identical, but I blame my dad because it was when I was younger. I grew up a White Sox fan, and if you're in Chicagoland and you've seen any highlight of the Chicago White Sox, or you go to a game, there's always that highlight of Robin Ventura hitting that walk-off grand slam. It was, I don't remember what year it was, but we were at the game, and my dad was always the type to where, let's leave in the 8th inning. I don't want to sit in traffic, and I never had a problem with that. And to this day, I actually still do the same thing. I'm okay with leaving a little bit early. But that game, the Sox were down 5 runs going into the 9th inning, and it was just let's go. Next thing you know, there's fireworks going off. We don't know what's going on. He turns on the radio in the car because this is before we had cell phones and internet and all that stuff. And Robin Ventura had hit a walk-off grand slam home run. So it wasn't just a walk-off home run. It was a grand slam. So
I will give you that, Mike. That is slightly worse than what I did.
It's brutal. It's on every White Sox highlight. If you watch something that goes through the years of the White Sox, that's on every single one. And I was there.
For most of it. All right, Brandon, please make us feel better.
Oh, yeah. No, I have a rule that I never leave early. But you know what? I don't know if I've ever heard the Star Spangled Banner, though. I do usually get there late.
Okay.
So I'm kind of the opposite. So
you're missing it not for political reasons. You just are there late. Right?
No. It's the opposite of political, where I'm oh, yeah, I'm grabbing everything, trying to get out the door, and then I'm oh no, I'm gonna be 15 minutes late. And then
you're never gonna miss anything in the first inning. Okay, nothing happens in the first inning, so that's okay.
No,
I'm usually tailgating. At that point.
Okay, so you will miss something in the end, like me and Mike famously did. So
actually that's not true. The only time I was there on time was the World Series when I went this last year to the Mets. It was awesome. We went for the one game that they won, so that was really cool. It was freezing, but it was the first time I actually got food before the game. It was quite enjoyable to not have to leave my seats to get food. I was hey, and then the beer people make sense.
Way cheaper. Cheaper. Not $12 for a hot dog. So
yeah, good stuff.
there you go. All right. Well, good. Well, that was a very positive start to the show. Let's get to now our starts and sits from you all, the listeners / Twitter followers. We are going to talk about if you should start this player, sit this player, etc. So let's kick it off. And again, either one of you jump in. So who should I start week 1? Standard scoring, Frank Gore or Kristen Michael? That's a good one, right?
I know what Brandon's going to say, but I'm gonna say Frank Gore because I don't trust anything going on the Seattle backfield this week. I know Pete Carroll talked about the fact that it's Thomas Rawls' second preseason game, but he practiced in full today. He's not even on the injury report anymore, so there's nothing there. I still think that Thomas Rawls is the starter there now. I think it's a real scenario where if Thomas Rawls goes out there and, let's say he starts the game with 5 carries for 20 yards, 25 yards, just something a little kind of like mediocre. And, they spell him with Kristen Michael. And if Kristen Michael blows, just takes off with a few big runs, kind of like he did in the preseason, he can run with the job. I really think that Pete Carroll's a guy that will reward a guy for performing over and over and over again. And Kristen Michael has done that through the entire preseason. So I actually told people, because I've had a lot of people asking me about sit-start questions with Kristen Michael and Thomas Rawls. And my advice is that if you can avoid it, if you have somebody other than a different option that you could just use for this week, let's just see how it plays out. I am not trusting either of those guys if I can help it this week. And then you look at garbage time. Seattle's going to win over Miami at home. It's just a mess. It's hard to predict. On the other side, Frank Gore, I know you're worried about him, Brandon, but I'm not so worried about Frank Gore in this game. The offensive line is what it is. It wasn't great last year. He wasn't great last year. We know that. But the reason that you have to love Frank Gore with Andrew Luck back in the offense is for scoring opportunities. What we're looking for when we have running backs, we're looking for volume and a high scoring offense. And this is exactly that. I think the over under in this game is 50, maybe 51. I think it's the highest in the NFL in week 1. So therefore, there's going to be a lot of back and forth scoring. The Colts are favored in this game. They're at home. I love Frank Gore as an RB1 this week.
Brandon, who are you starting?
Yeah, Kristen Michael.
Short and sweet. I like it. Okay.
I think Thomas Rawls is someone that they again want down the stretch. They're not going to need him in a game against Miami in Seattle. They're going to run the ball. They're going to do it with Christian Michael. I feel good about that, as opposed to I think the shootout that's going to happen between Indianapolis and Detroit. Neither of them really have stout defenses, especially Indianapolis. So they're going to have to play catch up. So I think it's going to be difficult for them to keep running the ball when, again, last season Frank Gore only averaged 3.6 yards per carry. And I think maybe the offensive line got worse instead of better, if you can believe that. And with Andrew Luck there, they're just going to throw the ball. I don't have a problem with Frank Gore. I have a problem with their line and the game script. So for me, that's what I would do in week 1. But certainly they're 2 borderline players that I'm glad you have both of them, because I think you're probably going to play the matchup week in and week out.
Right. All right. We have a flex question. Terrence West this week or Michael Crabtree?
Go ahead. You can go first, Brandon. I took the first one last time. Go ahead.
Michael Crabtree has a definite role in an offense going up against the New Orleans Saints on a team that wants to throw the ball down the field. I actually think there's a possibility, and the whole time I was like, hold on to Justin Forsett. Hold on to this guy. The fact that he did his team a solid like that and was such a team player, it's so weird. It's such a weird team in general, right? We've talked about this over and over again. We don't know who's starting at any position other than quarterback, and who even knows then, right? I mean, who knows? Mm-hmm. But I just don't know what is going to happen there. I'm not scared of the Bills. I don't know if I need to say that, but for me, Michael Crabtree just has so much upside that he's the perfect flex play this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're looking at, he's playing against the Saints team that allowed 45 passing touchdowns last year. That was an NFL record, by the way. The closest team
and not in a good way.
The closest team had given up 36 touchdowns. We're talking about a 9%. I mean, that is 25% more than the next closest team. It's ridiculous how bad this team was. Now, are they going to be that bad? Who knows? Maybe it's addition by subtraction, losing Rob Ryan. I don't know. But you look at the matchups and you look at Delvin Breaux. He's by far the best cornerback on the Saints roster. He lines up on Crabtree's side of the field. Like, if he doesn't shadow Amari Cooper, and towards the end of last year, the Saints didn't use road to shadow. But now that they're under a new defensive coordinator, things might change.
Yeah.
I don't know. But looking if they're playing sides, he's actually going to spend more time on Crabtree's side. But still, that would leave Crabtree, out of his coverage in 45% of the time. And that's more than enough against this Saints roster. This is another game. The over-under for this is 51 as well. It's in New Orleans. You got to love the fact that Drew Brees is going to put points on the board. Oakland's going to put points on the board. It's an extravaganza of points. So you want to start players in this game if you're on the fence about them. On the other side, you're looking at a Baltimore-Buffalo game. That's just brutal.
It's just not fun to watch, Mike. Just say it. It's okay.
It's really not. This is a game where, honestly, outside of Sammy Watkins and LaShawn McCoy, I'm not really looking to start anybody. I'm really not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a game where you look at it. Joe Flacco, he's coming back in his first game back. You don't know who he's going to be throwing to. You don't know how Steve Smith's going to look. Rashad Perriman still hasn't worked his way into the lineup. And then the running back situation, I'm not sure that I'm buying this whole Justin Forsett did it for the team nonsense. And the reason I say that is because if you pay attention on Twitter, all of these blurbs were coming out saying that Forsett re-signed with the Ravens. And he came out on his own personal account and said, whoa, don't be so quick. I'm learning so much about myself on Twitter right now. I'll let you guys know when I actually sign somewhere. And that was when all the reports were that he re-signed already. Well, the next day he ended up finally re-signing with them. But I'm not entirely.
And they gave him extra money.
That's the thing. I think that's what it took
interesting.
to get him back. That's why I'm saying I don't think this was a move where they talked to him about beforehand, like, hey, we're going to cut you and then we're going to bring you back. No, we're going to cut you and, we want to bring you back. And he says, well, let me just see what the interest is. And I think that maybe there was some interest. I'm not sure, but I'm not buying that this was done solely for the team. I'm really not.
No, I don't think they told him either. No, I agree with you on that. But he did go back to them. He could have said, you know what, screw you, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Right.
I do think there was interest in him. I mean, look at the running back situations all over the league and the injuries and everything else. So I think he did go back.
Yeah.
But it was a smart team move when you looked at it. It was weird because the thing is he didn't have to go through waivers because he had a certain veteran status.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to worry about that because if he would have gone through waivers, he would have been picked up. In fact, a couple people that follow me on Twitter were like, well, he didn't get picked up on waivers. I said, you guys don't even understand. He didn't go to waivers.
Right.
That was the whole point.
Right.
He gets to negotiate on his own terms based on his veteran status. So they knew that and they felt that they could compromise with him, which I guess they felt really good about the relationship with him because I'd be a little nervous if I was them because, again, Kenneth Dixon's not healthy right now. He's at least out 4 games, you guys.
He is, but I'm pretty sure this is all just a charade for Kenneth Dixon's eventual takeover of the position.
It's a weird spot. You look at the running back situation there. So let's see. Forsett's the best pass blocker. Buck Allen is the best receiving back they have. Terrence West is the best running back, like actually carrying the ball now. So they're in this big predicament. I'm staying away from all of them.
Yeah.
I don't want any of them.
And I think the bottom line, I mean, if it comes down to West versus Crabtree, it comes down to, like, I think you said it, Mike. You've got a player that's established. You know he's going to get attention in a very favorable matchup against a running back who knows at that point it's a complete toss-up. So just err on the side of caution. Go with the guy you know is going to play and see some snaps. So, all right. Ooh, a defensive question, a team defense question. The New York Giants defense with the Cowboys or the Packers defense against, I think it's what, Jacksonville?
Packers, Jacksonville, period. End of discussion.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
No. Blake Bortles is the #1 sacked quarterback 2 years in a row.
2 years running. Yep.
I mean, it's not even close because sacks are such a huge portion.
He also fumbled or led all quarterbacks in fumbles last year too.
Yeah,
interceptions. He's up there. Yeah.
So no,
look,
let's face it. I think the Dallas offense is pretty potent at this point. So it's not like you want to really roll the dice with that.
I don't know. I mean, Dak Prescott. Although future Hall of Famer, is a rookie. It will be his first NFL game. There is a possibility. Certainly, I understand the logic behind it, that like the big lights and the big city and, everything's crazy. Sure. But to me, Blake Bortles is so ripe for turnovers and sacks. And that's what all fantasy points are built off of. Even though I think they are going to score points. But, Green Bay's defense isn't bad. Green Bay is pretty decent. They've got some issues. They got some injuries, but I mean, they're good enough to get those things from Jacksonville, in my opinion.
Sure, I would agree with that. And look, they're both on the road, so it's not like one will have a home field advantage over the other. So, all right, Standard League running back Latavius Murray or Mike's favorite Spencer Ware.
Oh, you've hit the core. I like both these. I love both.
Do you have your notebook, Mike, or is this a non-notebook?
I've got multiple notebooks back here.
Okay.
I got
Then
multiple
we'll be all right.
ones.
We'll make
I got a whole thing back here of notebooks.
No, you hit like the core of like what I like this weekend. Latavius Murray is going to be a fantastic play. We talked about how good of a matchup it is, and DeAndre Washington still hasn't surpassed Tywan Jones on the depth chart. So you're not even going to see many touches out of Washington from the get-go. They talked about Latavius Murray and the fact they want to get him at least 15, 18 touches per game. And in this type of game, getting that many touches on top of the fact that you're going to have high touchdown opportunity, I love Latavius Murray in this matchup. Now, with that being said, Spencer Ware is my guy. Like, seriously, there are not many guys that I will start over Spencer Ware in week one. You go back and look at what he did last year so there were 5 games last year that he carried the ball more than 8 times. And in those games, he was able to rumble off for, I think it was over 6 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns. Like, he was a monster. He averaged more yards after contact than Matt Jones did, period. Like, Spencer Ware is a beast. And when he gets down by the goal line, he's a monster there. I had someone tell me, Mike, you're overrating this guy. He can't catch passes. Well, it's funny because I actually pay attention in the offseason. Spencer Ware made it a point to work on his receiving. He actually stayed after practice to catch passes. It showed in the preseason. He caught all 8 of his targets, which was more than he had the entire last year. Spencer Ware is ready. Charkandrick West is dealing with a shoulder thing. I know he's back at practice, but there's so many reasons. And on top of that, Spencer Ware played San Diego twice last year. In those games, he racked up 148 yards on 19 carries and 2 touchdowns. So he knows this team. They're going to be without Joey Bosa. It's in Kansas City. I think Kansas City is now favored by 7 points in this game. Everything about it screams, start me. So start Spencer Ware.
All right, B-Money, what say you?
Yeah, Spencer Ware should set up for a very good game. I laughed about it on Twitter, though, and I was like, what if Charkandrick West is the number 1 running back this week? Who's gonna riot? I mean,
fantasy Twitter just
what about Niall Davis? Oh, yeah, no, but people loved it. They were like, don't you say that. And they were like putting all these smiley faces because I mean, everyone's eggs are in this one Ware basket. And certainly the season-long knee-jerk reaction has been out of control. I think week 1, absolutely. And I totally think that you should start him in any sort of DFS cash games, things like that. He'll definitely be the highest owned running back, but sure, absolutely. You do you. Season-long wise, I think the hype has gone way overboard to the point of just insanity. And during the NFFC, which is a $2,500 buy-in, both Spencer Ware and Jamal Charles went in the 5th round. That's $2,500 you just set on fire. What are you doing? Like, what is wrong with you?
That's $2,500 set on fire.
Whatever. I mean, just, 5th round. Come on now. I think one game has been highly overhyped, and that's okay. But sure. I will say, though, that Latavius Murray does seem to be a bit of a workhorse. All these people have been so scared of drafting this guy. And I've been joking about it kind of the whole offseason, even during the draft. Because during the draft, too, they were like, they're going to draft a stud running back. They're going to do it. And then they got Washington, who's kind of a guy. He hasn't even, as Mike just said, he hasn't even gotten to the second guy yet. It's not happening. Sorry. I just think Latavius Murray's the guy there. It is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Running out of time, at least on this first half. So we will do rapid fire. Okay. Are you guys ready? All right. Chris and Michael again. Or Gio Bernard as my running back 2 in a PPR league. He already has Doug Martin as his number 1 running back and Crabtree as his flex. So Chris and Michael or Gio Bernard? PPR.
Gio Bernard.
Christian Michael.
Ooh, okay. Well, then pick your favorite PFF commentator and go that way.
Well, I think he's going to split with Jeremy Hill, and it's the Jets. They're very good against the run.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I like Gio Bernard this week. Maybe even a little bit. Actually, in PPR, I do like him better than Jeremy Hill because it's going to be filled with a bunch of short passes. Darrelle Revis is going to line up across from AJ Green. Jeremy Hill's not going to get much going. Unless Jeremy Hill scores in this game, you're going to see a low total out of him. I think Gio Bernard catches some passes. I think he's a candidate for 5 receptions this week.
Okay. One of 3 running backs: Thomas Rawls, Jonathan Stewart, or Jeremy Hill. 10-team standard league.
Throw up.
That's not an answer, Mike. So
Stewart, no problem.
Oh man, I might take the upside in Rawls, but I don't. We just talked about that. We
I'd probably go Stewart. That's the only one that is going to see significant carries. At least for sure.
Yeah, but we're playing against the Denver team that allowed like 3.4 yards per carry.
Yeah.
3.1.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Something
what Stewart
ridiculous.
does, though. I mean, he's not really like a big burst
Hey,
guy.
all
So he
3
kind
of
of
those guys, it's about the volume.
I think you're probably right though. I probably would play Stewart of those options, but I'm not excited about any of them.
Yeah. All right, quarterback, 12-team standard scoring: Carson Palmer or Tyrod Taylor?
Tyrod.
Okay.
I think that the Cardinals, I think Bruce Arians is a smart man, and I think he knows that all he wants to do this week is go in and get a win against New England. And the way to do that, ball control. I think David Johnson's going to see a lot of
David Johnson all the live long day.
Yeah.
All right, a seemingly deep bench question: Charkandrick West or Devontae Booker this week?
Ooh, I'll go with Booker just because he's actually healthy. They cut Ronnie Hillman. That shows their confidence in him. He's going to have a 3rd down role. And then, you go back over to Charkandrick West. He's been dealing with an injury. He almost didn't play at all in the preseason, dealing with that shoulder injury. So, yeah, I'm not really trusting him much at all. I think there's a reason that they kept Niall Davis on the roster. It's because I felt like Jamal Charles might not be ready. And on top of that, Charkandrick West was dealing with an injury.
I'm waiting for the injury report. I'm going Charkandrick West.
Even if both were healthy, I'd probably go Booker. I think Booker probably sees more starting snaps quicker than Charkandrick West does.
I agree.
I don't know. I mean, I think that the problem is that they're trying to already work in Trevor Siemian. They're trying to work in a lot of the offense in general with like the starters. I think it might be hard for them to also then have a finesse 3rd down back come in on the regular, especially against Carolina Panthers, and they're going to be more stout against the run than they are against the pass.
Yeah. Okay, I could see both on that. All right, PPR running back question: C.J. Anderson or Spencer Ware? Mike, I know your answer. Don't worry about answering. Brandon, C.J. Anderson or Spencer Ware?
I guess I'd probably go Spencer Ware.
Oh, thank God. Okay, if you didn't, Mike was going to have an aneurysm.
I think C.J. Anderson is fine.
I think he is too. I like C.J. Anderson as a back end 1, high end 2. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so PPR, pick 2 of these running backs: Melvin Gordon, Jeremy Hill, Charles Sims, Isaiah Crowell. Pick 2 of them.
Charles Sims has got to be one of them. The Falcons allowed the most receptions to running backs last year. I think it was like 112.
Right.
But then the other one, man, that's tough, Brandon. Who do you got as the other one?
I think I have Isaiah Crowell.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia Eagles towards the end of the season definitely gave up a lot more rushing yards. For a while there, they hadn't given up 1 rushing touchdown. I think it wasn't until week 14, actually. And then they gave up like 5. So, it was kind of one of those weird things. But for me, I think one of the biggest missed storylines in the entire fantasy industry is how much work Isaiah Crowell has gotten all preseason and how much they used him in that offense. So I think he's actually been a steal across most
I think
formats.
He has too, but I go back to Hugh Jackson does not do the whole 300 carry running back thing. I mean, Crowell's going to be the lead guy. I agree with you, but I think he's going to be good value for where he's picked, especially. I think you're right. People forgot about him, and he's going to be pretty good. And look, Hugh's a good coach, so I mean that's a good combo.
Well, he's going to tell RG3, I want Crowell running in those touchdowns, not you.
That's a good.
No, I'm serious. Like that.
I know.
Yeah.
That's a mandate, believe me.
Oh yeah, it would be if I was coaching RG3. Let me tell you something.
All right, flex position: Marvin Jones or Eric Decker. That's a good one.
Man, that's tough. Man, I like Marvin
Decker
Jones.
playing the Bengals.
Yeah.
You got Detroit playing the Colts.
Decker is the safer option. He's a higher floor guy. But I mean, it depends on what you're looking for in your lineup. If you're looking at a wide receiver 3 and you're looking for upside, I'd play Marvin Jones. If you're looking for a safer play, it's like a cash play versus tournament play almost between these two. I have them both ranked almost side by side. So you're flipping coins. But if you're looking for upside, I'd play Marvin Jones. If you're looking for a safe play, Eric Decker.
Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. You're going to actually have a better idea of this later in the season. We always kind of talk about this on our show. Are you swinging for the fences or not? If you're going up against a guy who had someone bomb on Thursday night, I'm going Decker. If you're going against someone who had someone blow up on Thursday night, I'm going to go with Marvin Jones and hope for the win.
Okay. The last few flex positions, standard scoring. Ooh, Jeremy Maclin or Dante Moncrief? Another good one.
Moncrief for me, easy in that one. You're looking at Jason Verrett is matching up against Jeremy Maclin, and that's a tough matchup for any wide receiver in the league,
right.
Let alone when you have Alex Smith throwing to you. That's a handicap as is. And then you look at Detroit, where actually in our DFS, our matchup on the DFS the tool that we have, the wide receiver cornerback matchup tool, they have Darius Slay matching up with T.Y. Hilton. Therefore, Dante Moncrief is going to see a second and third string cornerbacks against the Detroit defense, and that's always a good thing. So Dante Moncrief, he's in a fantastic game scenario this week too, as is Frank Gore.
Yeah, I'm going to say Moncrief, not Frank Gore, but I did put him down as someone that I believe is going to also be a big DFS play. He's a deal for where he is, for what his matchup is, and the fact that they need to throw the ball.
Yeah. All right, last couple, real quick. Roethlisberger or Stafford this week?
Stafford, easy.
Brandon?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to go Stafford.
All right, last one. Start week one of Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson, C.J. Anderson, Spencer Ware. Man, a lot of Spencer Ware questions.
Yeah.
Only one of those four, or
Only
two?
One.
Only one.
Hyde, Duke, C.J., Spencer Ware.
Yeah, Spencer Ware for me. I like C.J. Anderson, but not as much as Spencer Ware.
Yeah, it's between the two of them for me, but I guess I'll go Spencer Ware. I feel like Spencer Ware is a trap. And I feel like the Oakland-New Orleans game is a trap. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know statistically they're not, so I will advise you to use them. But I'm telling you here and now that there is a possibility that both of these things are going to let down a lot of people in the industry. A lot.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first from
I feel that way about the Pittsburgh-Washington game. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as people think.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into, now that we covered that portion, some daily plays. But first, a quick break, and we'll be right back to dive into that. All right. So now we covered starts and sits for your fantasy team. Now we will talk about daily plays, values, maybe overpays, etc. Brandon, why don't you lead us off? Who do you have as a good value this week in daily?
Yeah, we kind of talked about him a little bit, but Charles Sims was so unbelievably undervalued when he first came out. It was my initial reaction. It was in my first article that I did DFS-wise for the site. I just don't understand how he can be under $5,000 on FanDuel. That makes zero sense in my brain. The thing is that this week has a lot of underpriced players because a lot of things happen between the pricing and now. So, whenever I use our DFS tool, which by the way is just like killer, you have to get it. And that's not because I work here or I'm on this podcast, but literally I'm so excited to play because it makes it just so easy. But the problem is that there's so many deals that every single roster now is going to have Antonio Brown and Julio Jones in it. And then like Charles Sims and Dak Prescott. It's just like, now everything has become so chalk, these deals, but I still think that Charles Sims is one of those people that I'm excited about. And I know this is going to sound really crazy. I think DeAndre Hopkins is a deal. He's actually in a wonderful matchup right now. If you look at the wide receiver cornerback tool as well. And he is priced, lower than the other studs and won't be in as many lineups. So if you're playing a GPP, I think that maybe you should consider him as one of your studs and then see if you can kind of beef up some places. It's time to get a little creative. I think we've all been looking at week one for so long that we're forgetting about the variety that can still exist. So I did want to put that out there.
Well, and you bring up a good point because week one is so random, I guess is the term. I mean, I think it was Travis Benjamin last year completely went off in week one. And like everyone's like, who the hell is Travis Benjamin and what is he doing scoring 2 touchdowns that are 80 yards?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think look, if there's going to be 1 week to do something a little different, it's probably week one. So,
but how different is DeAndre Hopkins? I mean, that's what's so funny is that we're not even playing people that are usual. Yeah,
right, I'm saying that's the different thing. Even if you're, shy away from the top end guys because you want to sort of spread it around, what you're saying is, hey, consider him and he may pay off this week.
Yeah.
Even at that price.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. So crazy. Mike, values, go.
No, it's kind of nuts actually because week one you could almost in like DraftKings right now, like you look at you're able to spend 50,000. I promise you that there's people out there that are probably going to spend 45,000 and leave 5,000 on the table just to have a different variation than everybody else, and it could work. But here's the thing. It's almost like trying to find your place you got to pick your spots to spend up. And DeAndre Hopkins, he's a solid one. The Bears corners, it looks like they're going to be ready for week one, although they weren't great to begin with. So I don't have an issue with DeAndre Hopkins, but if you're going to spend up, I'd rather play Julio for his cost. The guy's just a monster.
But who isn't going to have Julio in their lineup? Like, is there one person who's not going to have Julio?
Well, considering the cost, I would say yeah.
Whoever has Beckham in his lineup won't have Julio Jones.
Yeah, right. Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown's a heavy started guy, and I wouldn't be playing him. Antonio Brown, I think he's going to be extremely high owned, and I think there's too much risk in that matchup with Josh Norman. I'm not saying that Antonio Brown can't have a good game. I'm just saying that his ceiling is still limited. Understand that because Josh Norman allowed over 60 yards one time in coverage last year. His last year was ridiculous. He's not.
People are so down on him.
The thing is, he's not as great as he was last year, but he's not as bad as people are making him out to be. I don't know why they're so far down on him. But if you want to value, I think me personally, I'm all over the Colts, and I'm saying this. I keep saying it over and over. They're a home team. They're favored in this game. People forget that. A lot of the public is going towards Detroit. Vegas knows what they're doing when they set these lines. There's a reason that everybody's betting Detroit, and there's a reason that Indy's favored. They're at home. They're in a dome. Andrew Luck completely changes the outlook of this offense. The reason I see so much value in this game is because Indy's defense is so bad. All right. They're missing Vontae Davis. Like that just caps off how bad they actually are. So when you look at it, there's going to be a whole lot of passing in this game. That's why you got to like guys in the Detroit side of the ball. That's why you have to love the value you're getting with Dwayne Allen in week one. The knock on Dwayne Allen is that he's never been healthy. He can never stay healthy. Well, while he's healthy, get him in your lineup. All he's costing right now in DraftKings, $3,200 in week one against a Detroit team that allowed the most touchdowns to tight ends last year. They allowed 12 touchdowns to the tight end position last year. They're stronger, I guess, in the secondary than they are in the middle of the field. So I'm starting Dwayne Allen and feeling pretty comfortable about it.
I think he's going to be blocking the whole time after seeing that line. I think they may have just screwed him up. To me, Dwayne Allen and Coby Fleener are two guys I'm kind of waiting to see what happens in week one because I'm really nervous about both of them. Their roles to me have changed in the preseason. I was really high on them going in, and now I'm a little bit nervous, especially if they need to throw the ball, if they need to have some sort of pass protection. It seems like that offensive line just lets people just run right through it. They're like, oh yeah, you go ahead. We know there's this guy back here, but like, it's fine. You do you. It's
not
weird.
Like it's like worth $140 million now. Like
you wouldn't know. You would not know. So I'm concerned about what they're going to need Dwayne Allen to do, in particular as the game goes on. I mean, they may use him as a pass-catching guy at the beginning, but he's so good at blocking that he really is valuable there in a way that the other people aren't. But yeah, I think, again, this Detroit Indianapolis game is huge. I think, I'm intrigued by games that no one's going to play anyone in. Like, what is Matt Forte going to do in the Jets now that he's the tight end? No, and I mean, like, specifically DraftKings is a full point PPR. Mm-hmm. I think that people have completely ignored him. I'm not saying he's going to be strong the whole season, and certainly Cincinnati has a good defense, but he's kind of their Allen wrench. They're going to use him for everything this year. And regardless of whether or not we think he's run out of steam, it seems like they need him because Fitzpatrick is having some issues. He definitely did not get the offseason that he needed. So I'm intrigued with him. And by the way, no one has mentioned Matt Forte's name in any fantasy circles that I've been a part of over the last 2 weeks. So I actually had someone ask me if he was hurt. Because no one mentioned him anywhere. And it was just a friend who does fantasy casually. But I laughed. I was like, no, this is just one of those classic, like, we just have nothing to say. You know, it just is what it is. So,
yeah. I mean, that's his MO is he does his thing and he's not flashy. I mean,
no,
even in Chicago, he wasn't flashy, but he does it.
He's only 6,500, and I know that that's, you know, a lot, but for a guy who looks like he's going to be a huge part of that offense, it's really not. You know, if you're going to save money other places, you have to spend it somewhere. Or you just leave $5,000 on the table, which is fine too, by the way. I'm actually not completely against leaving money on the table. And when I was working for FanDuel and I had to do like the perfect lineup, a lot of times they did have money on the table, like over $1,000. So it's definitely something that you should think about. And especially if you're looking for, as we said, mixing it up, you know, if you have, because sometimes you look at it and you're like, I just don't know if I can put this guy down. You know, have you ever played someone like 45 times and you're like, at some point I got to stop. I got to stop with this guy.
Well, but you know, and you bring up a good point with leaving money on the table, because that really is a debate like that you have to have with yourself. Like, do I trust the process or do I trust, there's money left, I should definitely spend it? You know, because if you're looking at like our tool where it says, no, this guy's definitely going to go off, but it means, hey, I have $3,000 left. You know, you kind of have a conflict because it's like, okay, I could quote upgrade, but really, you know, that's a marginal difference. That's a marginal improvement. Or do I believe this guy's really going to have a good day no matter what his price is?
Yeah.
No, right, right. Well, outside of Spencer Ware, okay, I'll give you another running back name.
We have said Spencer Ware a dozen times.
But down the list,
Look at Twitter.
So Brandon, someone comparable to Matt Forte this week, and I actually think he actually might outproduce Matt Forte, and he costs $2,000 less. TJ Yeldon.
Oh, and I was going to say Ryan Matthews. So, we have a bunch of names.
I like Matthews as well. Matthews is a fantastic play this week. He's another one who, when he's healthy, he's good. So, I mean, he's got a great matchup. But TJ Yeldon,
I agree with you.
Chris Ivory popped up on the injury report today. And if there's something that just pops up in the middle of the week, that's usually not a good sign. So, therefore, if Chris Ivory misses this game, TJ Yeldon is a must start. Like, he pops into must start territory. It was already game script fitting towards him because you got to figure the Packers are going to put up some points. We talked about the fact that the Jaguars have allowed so many sacks. There's reasons that TJ Yeldon was catching tons of passes last year. He's a better fit for this offense than Chris Ivory is. Ivory's more fit for that jet scheme, you know, that power run. I love TJ Yeldon. I think he's a guy that people overlooked in drafts a little bit. And he's just a better all-around back. I think for $4,100, if you're looking for somebody who hasn't been talked about, TJ Yeldon's a fantastic play.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, and just as a side note, I know, Mike, you mentioned the Colts and Lions game. Marvin Jones, by the way. Yeah.
I didn't think I did. I'm totally kidding.
Okay. All right. I couldn't tell. Your deadpan's very good, Mike. Good for you. But no, just as a side note, Marvin Jones, only 4,600 on DraftKings.
Yeah, no,
that is dirt cheap for a team that is going to be throwing it a lot, and he's definitely a starter. So
that's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorites. And actually, from that same game, if you're looking to start Dante Moncrief because he's cheap, I understand it. But you could take the contrarian play and start T.Y. Hilton. I think T.Y. Hilton arguably has a higher ceiling this week, and he's going to cost a little bit more. But it's the contrarian play. I can easily see that happening, where a lot of people are starting Dante Moncrief instead of Hilton.
Yeah. Oh, as a side note, one of my favorites, Corey Coleman's only 5,100. But I digress. All right, so let's get into some players that you two are avoiding, meaning, you know, cost or just matchup or what have you. Brandon, you're up first.
Well, I am avoiding Cam Newton. I mean, it was funny too because Michael does this like initial reactions to rankings, which I didn't realize that article was happening on the Planet. So it was my first time doing the week 1 rankings. So then all of a sudden he like called basically me and Tags out, and he was like, "Hey, if anyone wants to defend their rankings, Brandon and Tags." And I was like,
"It's
what?
a different Michael, by the way. It's a very common name.
Different Michael.
It wasn't me; it was somebody else." But
yeah, Mike C.
Mike C. Yes, and so I was like, "Oh." Like, which ones? So he's like, I guess Cam and Frank Gore point, you know, stick out to me. And I was like, really? Because actually when I ranked Cam Newton 13, I thought maybe it was too high. And I'm not kidding.
You're not alone in that. I will tell you that much.
I love Cam Newton on the season. I don't have any problems with him. Don't get me wrong. But for me, they gave up 0 rushing touchdowns during the regular season and the postseason last year, the Denver Broncos. They gave up the absolute fewest points to quarterbacks. And they look very good. I know that they lost, a couple key players, but not really. They are so deep that even in like the third and fourth quarter of these preseason games, they were killing people. It doesn't even matter. The third and fourth string people are better than other people's starters on defense. It's ridiculous what's going on in Denver on the defensive side of the ball. So even though I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game for the Denver offense at all, I think the Denver defense, again, Carolina struggled in the preseason. They are going to have Greg Olsen back. He is back from the back injury, they believe. But, it's still a little dicey for me. I'm a little bit worried. And so I just don't see him being a top 10 guy. And you have to pay top 10 prices to get him even against the Broncos. And I know that it's DFS and some people don't play Thursday, but I just thought I'd put it out there.
Well, and look, the simplest way to look at it is what did he do in his last game last year against this same team, against this same defense? He went 18 of 41 for 265 yards, no passing touchdowns, 1 interception, and had 45 yards rushing. There you go. I mean, this is essentially the same personnel he's going against. So, Mike, what about you? Players that you're avoiding this week?
If you wanted to go with quarterback, I'd say Phillip Rivers, who has not thrown a single touchdown against the Kansas City Chiefs in their last 3 games that they played. Rivers, they're on the road in Kansas City. The game script's totally against them. It's got a low over/under. Antonio Gates hasn't performed in the last. He's caught 1 touchdown in the last 4 games. Like nothing about that game says start any Chargers. Like I'm not loving them, but one name that people would, I guess, be surprised they might be excited to start this week, and I tell you not to, is Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is still second on the depth chart. It's not happening right yet, guys. I understand that people want to fall in love with the guys from preseason, but Derrick Henry is the number 2 on the depth chart. They're playing against a Vikings team that allowed a rushing touchdown in just 4 of their games last year. It's a really good Vikings defense. I just don't see it happening for him. I could easily see a line of 8 to 10 carries for 35 to 40 yards. Like it's not a week where you want to touch him. I know he's cheap and all that, but just stay away from Derrick Henry.
Okay. Well, that was a lot of info, you two, but I think our listeners are well prepared for week 1. Hopefully everyone enjoys it. We will have plenty to talk about next week, but until then, she's Brandon Marianne Lee, he's Mike Tagliere, and I'm Michael Moore. We'll see you next time on the Fantasy Slant.